These aren't the only 5 by any means, right? Happy 5 Fact Friday. 5 Fact Friday. I'm Charlie Lambden, and it is 5 Fact Friday. Good morning. I don't think I've ever felt less ready for a live stream than I do this morning. Basically, for those of you who saw last night's live stream, I went from my live stream to my bed and then back to my desk for this live stream. Good morning, everybody. It is, what's the date? It's Friday the 12th of September. This is 5 Fact Friday. I'm Charlie Lambden, and this is Moving Home with Charlie, where I share my decades of experience from behind the scenes of the housing market as a provider of technology and marketing services to agents, and also with a background in the city to bring a totally amateur and unprofessional take on what's happening in the housing market and helping you, the home mover, navigate the obstacles that the industry needlessly puts in your way when you're trying to move home, so that hopefully you can move home more easily with less uncertainty and end up in a better home sooner. And I also, because I know people think that politics isn't housing. Why do you talk about politics, Charlie? Because nothing affects and causes the conditions of the housing market, the worsening conditions, more than government policy. So you can't complain. Yeah, people blame estate agents. And whilst there is plenty to blame estate agents for, the condition of the housing market is not does not lie at their feet. That's mainly at government. Overvaluing, yes, that's at the feet of agents, but it's not helped by government. And the basic theme of this week is that the housing market is grinding to a slowdown, to a crawl, limp mode. For those of you who have cars that had such things, remember limp mode? They don't talk about it so much anymore. When your car's engine, something goes wrong with it, and a light flashes, and it will let you drive, but not more than 25 miles an hour. That's what the housing market's doing. People are still moving, but it's a bit harder, a bit slower. And the 5 facts this morning, I really meant it when I said I wasn't ready for this. That's why I'm late. Children, life, the end of the week coming around faster than you expect. So headlines for those of you who don't want to sit and listen to me babble on like an... Halifax provides the media with a press release to parrot about record house prices, and it got loads of headlines, but you can just disregard it. It's total guff. That's fact number 1. Fact number 2, the budget property tax measures are likely to include scrapping stamp duty below 500,000 and a new annual property tax above 500,000. Fact number 3, I mean, it's less than a week since this happened, but it feels like a lot longer ago than that. Angela Rayner resigned because of her son. We really do have the clowns in power, don't we? The housing secretary resigned because she got her stamp duty wrong. It really is. It really, I mean, if it wasn't for all the suffering at the hands of this government's incompetence and previous government's incompetence, I'm not picking on these guys, but these guys really are reminding us just how bad governments can be. Like, again, it's like, it doesn't matter who it is. It's that the housing secretary got their stamp duty wrong. That's all I'm laughing at, right? The housing secretary buying a third home got their house anyway. It just tickles me. But now, of course, there's another resignation happened 24 hours ago, which is bigger news. So they've moved on from that. They've thrown Mr. Mandelson under the bus, quite rightly. That's fact number 3. We have a new housing secretary, Steve Reed, and we'll touch on Steve Reed in a moment. Fact number 4, Reeves's teases put housing market on standby until after the budget, and that's what this is about. This article, which I'll get into a little bit, and then we have the final fact of the 5 today, which has made the headline of the video. The Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors August survey shows the housing market grinding to a halt and rental supply at the lowest level in years. And there's a bonus fact. There's a fact number 6 I will share with you, which is a fact that escaped my notice from December last year, but it's too important to overlook. And it's about, yeah, well, we'll get onto it. So how is everyone this morning? Who I got here with me? Who's skiving off from their work to be here at 30 minutes past 9? The English voice narrations are, well, you're in the creative industries, darling, aren't you? So you work at night, not in the daytime. Baldrick Turnip, good morning. Ahoy there. Paul, hi there. There's my own comment. I'm running late. Slay, S-L-A-Y. Hello, that's a new name. Finding out in a live stream. Welcome. Raymando Senior, Baldrick Turnip again. Modi, changes coming. Patricia, hi there. Green t-shirt for hope. Things must be bad. Yeah, this was not the color. This is one of my t-shirts, right? Fix housing, fix everything. It was a test order. It's not the color I ordered, but it's the only one I've got so far. Stop that, Luca. Yo. Andrea Leckie, Scarlet Spear, good morning. Jack May. God, you guys have gone straight from your computer to your bed back to your screen, haven't you? Ben Chesterman, Rumit, Lena, Jill Hayes. Hi there. Sandra and Anani on LinkedIn is watching. Good morning. Smashers says, keep going, Charlie. Yeah, I can grind myself into the ground until we fix this housing market. Thank you very much. And Jane W says, listening right now whilst on holiday in Cyprus. Don't want to come back to the UK. Dan the man, hi there. Kyle Webb and Isle of Thorns. Kyle Webb's got a question there I will answer when I finish the 5 facts. Oh, there we are. Put it on screen. I'll give you a sneak preview of it. But I'm just avoiding the actual hard work of getting into the weeds of this, aren't I? So these are the 5 verifiable new things that have happened in the last 7 days that you can check for yourself. And starting off, let's start with the media's reaction to Halifax announcing its house price index for the month. And I just posted this on X. Remorseless gaslighting, unverifiable average of a small sample of mortgage-only transactions from one lender, no sample size and no data to check. And also, I forgot to say, it conflicts with the same month's data from the other big lender nationwide. Just pointing out how pointless they are. The media presents it as though it reflects all house prices. They always say, Halifax says house prices, when their share of transactions is so small and so limited in scope. What they're reporting on is the change in the value of properties that they are lending on. That's all. And it does ignore the fools at the top of the market. And it's just pumping hey, borrow, guys, because house prices are going to record. So you're safe to keep borrowing, because people only borrow when they think it's a safe thing to do. If they think house prices are falling, they won't borrow so much. So we've got to make them borrow more. So tell them it's record house prices. Don't let them verify the data. Don't publish our actual information for journalists to scrutinize and to hold us to account. No. Just copy and paste that we say it's a record house price. There we are. Look at this. Guardian, This Is Money, Bloomberg, average house price. It's new record, says the Evening Standard. Yahoo Finance, house prices hit record high, financial report. You see what I mean? New peak. So that's fact number 1. Halifax continues to try and sell more mortgages, basically, as they do every single month. Fact number 2, I mean, arguably the biggest fact of the week, of the month, or even of the year. We might be facing the biggest set of changes to property taxes in living memory. We won't know for another 2.5 months, and that's what's causing the slowdown. But in this document here, which is all linked to, if you go to the link to my blog that has the 5 fact link sources there. A practical alternative. So this is by one chap. If you look him up, he's been an advisor to governments for decades. He's one of those guys, because the politicians themselves are not capable or competent to come up with policies. So they have the guys in the background who are always there with experience coming up with some of these policies. And I'm not going to go into my opinions on this because it's too long and I haven't got enough time this morning. Okay, but it tells you about the organization and it tells you about the author. And this is the chap. Tim Lunig is Onward's chief economist. He served as a senior UK government advisor for a decade, including as an economic advisor to 2 chancellors. Well, which ones? And I'm not sure that's actually something to trumpet, is it? Because there haven't been any chancellors who've done anything good recently. Senior policy advisor. I mean, literally, that's the guy who actually understands what's going on behind the scenes for the politicians that come and go, they don't know what's happening, to 6 other cabinet ministers, and the chief analyst and chief scientific advisor to the Department for Education. So he's a jack of all trades. And in the autumn of 2023, he was the Prime Minister's education advisor. And he's taught at the London School of Economics for 25 years and is a multiple international prize-winning economist. What do economists win prizes for? He's also a director of economics at Public First. So this is one of those characters from behind the scenes who I don't know anything about, and I'm not forming any opinions. Clearly, he's been in the game for a long time, and these are his ideas. It's one man's ideas that are going to end up shaping the whole housing market. And I do want to get into this, and I haven't had time to do it, and I might have to do it on a separate live stream. We'll just dig into it. But there are things in here that worry me. And in a nutshell, what worries me, here we are. First, the stamp duty land tax should be replaced with a national proportional property tax levied on house values above 500,000. This rate would be set by central government, an annual rate of 0.54%. It's a very precise amount, with a 0.278% supplement on values over £1 million. Who decides on the value of a property? This is going to have, if it comes in with this hard boundary of £500,000, it's going to have all kinds of weird unintended consequences on the housing market at around about £500,000. Second, they're saying council tax should be replaced with a local proportional property tax levied on house values up to £500,000 with a minimum annual payment of £800. The rate would be set by local authorities, and a rate of 0.44%, so just 0.1% less than the annual rate for £500,000 above, would raise the same amount of revenues as council tax. This would be introduced immediately on all properties and will be payable by the owner, not the resident. So the landlord, not the tenant. It has not had much reporting that I'm aware of. Anyway, I haven't got time to go into it much more, other than to say that my worry here is less about the principles that they're proposing and more about the implementation of it in the real world and the utter chaos that that's going to cause, like the Renters' Rights Bill is going to cause. All right, so the link to that is below. It's a PDF. It's a 45-page PDF, I think, 48-page PDF. And if you are someone moving house and you really want to have the best idea of what's coming up at the budget, this is a pretty good bet. There are no guarantees. How to replace it. It goes into how it's going to work. It talks about some of the challenges, and it talks about different housing values. So it acknowledges some of the challenges, the effects on the housing market. Yeah, this is like reading a professor's lecture at university. It sounds wonderful in theory. In the real world, I mean, look at these round numbers. Okay, house price bands. Oh, dear me. I think there's trouble ahead with this. My gut feel is that they are going to implement most of this. They're going to announce it at the budget. The implementation of it will be an absolute, you know what I'm going to say, it's too early in the morning, cluster truck. Anyway, that's fact number 2. Fact number 3. So Rain and the Blamer has gone, and instead we've now got a chap called Steve Reed. Now, Steve Reed added me on LinkedIn, or accepted my invitation to add on LinkedIn, and I have just yesterday sent him a private message saying, please can we talk? I'd love to talk to you. Don't know if you want to, don't know if you care. I'm just a random punch on the internet, but I think I might bring interesting perspectives. I don't know if I'll hear back from him, but I would always be willing to talk to any housing secretary from any government with the intention of helping the housing market function better. So if any of you are his constituents and want to back me up and go, hey, you should talk to Charlie, that'd be great. What we do know about him is just a couple of lines on here. So build, baby, build, which sounds very Trumpish, doesn't it? But he's a 61-year-old Labour MP for Streatham and Croydon North, has significant local government experience, having led Lambeth Council for 6 years and turned around London's worst-rated borough. He worked in printing before entering politics as a councillor in 1998. And during his leadership, his pro-regulation approach and struggles with major regeneration schemes will concern the market. So automatically, here is somebody with more hands-on experience of leading political, like, it might be council, whatever, but my point is, I immediately feel like this is a guy who has a deeper understanding of what's at stake. He is a Labour politician, and therefore his policies are, if he's behind those typical policies, are less likely to be helpful than others, I would think. However, he comes into the job with a lot of enthusiasm, which is welcome. A lot more credibility as a functioning politician, right? I'm not saying I'm a fan or I'm not a fan. I'm simply saying that my major gripe with this government has been the lack of competence at the senior level. And this guy, I would appear to have a bit more competence. Let's see what he starts to say. Let's see what he does. He's talking a big game. No, Patricia, I've never had to deal with the council. But all I'm saying is, good or bad, whatever happens is he's had his sleeves rolled up, and he's actually been functioning in it for sort of 25, 30 years. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying he did a good job or anything else. Good or bad, he's had frontline experience of this kind of stuff more than Angela Rayner did. And I'm hopeful that he might bring any improvement at all to the housing market. I'm hopeful that he has a better chance of doing it than Angela Rayner did. I don't know. I am an optimist. Those of you who call me a doom-monger, I'm an optimist. There's a new guy, fresh blood, new brooms, sweep clean and all that. Let's see what happens. I mean, to be fair to all politicians who get into these roles, they basically have their hands tied behind their back by the system itself, and that makes it very difficult. So I don't hold out much hope. I just hold out marginally more hope than I did when Angela Rayner was in post. Anyway, that's fact number 3. Fact number 4, there's Angela Rayner. We can skip past that. Here we go. Fact number 4. Property market on life support as Labour stokes tax fears. Panic and confusion ahead of the budget have drained buyer confidence. This is a story in the Telegraph 3 days ago. And it's a really good read because it really does actually give a deep dive into exactly what all the things are that are happening that are causing the housing market to struggle. This summer was one of the quietest we've seen for some time. Properties taking longer to sell. So this was already happening in August. But Simon Gerrard of Martin Gerrard Agents in North London said nearly 20% of agreed sales in August fell through. The panic, confusion, and uncertainty sparked by these potential new taxes has caused almost 20% of our agreed sales in August to see the buyers withdraw only a week or two later. The shadow of the new budget now looms, and this constant chatter will put a hold on the property market during September and October, detrimentally affecting the overall economy while we are in this limbo. That's absolutely true. That's completely true. His colleague Greg Suman added that after 23 years in the industry, experiencing the credit crunch and the pandemic, 2025 was one of the flattest summers he'd seen. The sales market was set up for a perfect recovery as interest rates have come down. We should not be experiencing this drought. The market should be booming in terms of activity levels. Yeah, that's right. And literally, this dangling uncertainty ahead of the budget and the length of that uncertainty has hit it really hard. Zoopla said that buyers could be taking a wait-and-see approach. The market is presently on life support, says Christopher Clark of Chartered Surveyors Eli Langley Greig. Potential buyers are waiting the outcome of the budget before they decide what to do. Tax bombshells have had a chilling effect on what was already a sluggish market. So they talk about the RICS survey there, which we'll get into in a minute. I did a long survey on that, video on that last night. While the government later denied proposals of a tax on sellers to replace stamp duty, the speculation is already... Did they deny it? House prices fell unexpectedly. No, don't give us the unexpectedly. Between July and August, according to Nationwide. But no, Halifax said they went up. See what I mean? Guys, just ignore the national house price indices. Up or down, ignore them. Zoopla says 34% of properties have been reduced in price. The figure has only been this high once before, since 2023, since 2012. And more homes are selling at a discount. Yeah, rumors of a mansion tax. It goes on and on and on. And it's true. Yeah, and this is also true. So demand hasn't disappeared. No, the desire to move home is always there. What's happening is they're moving more slowly, scrutinizing every detail, and in some cases choosing to rent in the short term rather than commit. Yeah, because it's so uncertain. Anyway, it goes on and on, basically talking about all the things that are affecting the market and slow down. And what you're going to ask yourself is because remember how slowly the housing market functions, okay? It's a very, very, very slow moving beast. It makes moving harder. Okay, that's fact number 4. Fact number 5 is the RICS survey came out. Sales market activity continues to slow. Buyer inquiries fall for a second straight month. Decline in agreed sales also reported. House prices drift lower at the aggregate level. And then deep down in here, we get into prices. They talk about, it's buried right down the middle of a paragraph. Headline house price gauge produced a net balance reading of minus 19% this month, down from minus 13% last month and minus 7% the month before. So it's been negative for 3 months in a row and accelerating. These are the house price gauges. And this is a leading indicator of house prices, the RICS survey. Those aren't percentage drops in price. That's percentage drops in the balance of respondents in the survey reporting rising or falling house prices. Last night, I did a full-length deep dive into that RICS survey. So if you want to watch that, go find last night's video. It's just hours ago. And the final fact, the bonus fact number 6, which I didn't know. Starmer admitted back in December last year that the 1.5 million home target was too ambitious. Right? He defends the target, but admits it's ambitious, even though it's necessary to. So it's like he said, yeah, we're not going to do it, but we're still going to say we're going to do it. Just absolutely bonkers, right? So having admitted it's too ambitious, he's now still, as recently as yesterday, when he fired Peter Mandelson. No, it was last week when he fired Angela Rayner. He recited that target again. Anyway, there we go, guys. A couple of quick questions, and then I've got to go. Kyle Webb says, would you wait until after the budget to exchange, i.e. stamp duty? Definitely not if you are below the existing stamp duty threshold anyway. If you're someone who thinks that, well, if they do scrap stamp duty below £500,000, then that includes me, and means we would save on our purchase. Look at the exact amount that would be saved, and then look at, because it won't just be scrapping stamp duty, there'll be increasing taxes elsewhere. So if you think they're going to do that, you've also got to assume that they're going to put the other taxes in place, the property taxes. So that should also affect your thinking. But all I would say about this question is, and I put this in the newsletter that went out this morning at the end of my thought of the week. Remember, it's about the move, not the money. All right? Don't risk losing a deal for a saving that you don't need, as in you could afford to pay what you've offered to pay. Don't put the saving above the need to move, if that makes sense. That makes sense. A lot of people do this, and all they care about is the money. And then they in doing so, you lose a sale. The seller might go to someone else. There are many things that can happen. Every single transaction, the longer it takes and the larger the delay, the higher the chance of it falling through. So if you're a buyer and you don't want your transaction to fall through, and you don't want to risk losing the home that you've had your offer accepted on, my answer is you might miss out on the stamp duty saving, but also the stamp duty drop is unlikely to come into effect immediately. Or it may, but it also may not come into effect until the 1st of April next year. So you see, these are all these uncertainties, which is why, generally speaking, it's better to proceed. Now, there are people where above it are the taxes effectively going to rise. It's quite difficult to get your head around all these things. They haven't mentioned inheritance tax and how that's going to change things. And truly, unless you want to delay your move by basically 3 to 4 months, that's how long it's going to take until we know what the rules are, have had time to digest them and factor them into our finances. Unless you're happy to delay your move that many months, some people obviously are, then no, I would proceed. But it depends on your reasons for moving. It depends on your financial situation. It depends on the size of your mortgage. It depends on the non-financial reasons for your purchase. Yeah, it's a tricky one. Yeah, okay. So Kyle adds, our stamp duty would be £10,000. Now, I don't know what that means in relation to the size of your purchase. I don't know how much that is as a proportion of your deposit. I don't know what that is as a proportion of your overall financial situation. But the way to answer the question is, would we kick ourselves if trying to dodge 10K meant we lost the sale, lost the purchase? That's the way to answer it. So fast forward, imagine that you've put on hold saving your exchange until after the budget. And once you've heard it, you're going to have to wait a bit longer. And there'll be, by the way, lots more chaos after the budget. I think the budget's going to slow the housing market down even more. Would you look back and go, oh, God, I wish we just bought it. We could be living in our new home now and getting on with our life instead of staying in limbo. Being in limbo is not good for your life in any way, including financially. So, there we are. Three licks, he says, thoughts on estate agents who offer committed transactions. Buyer pays 1% deposit, non-refundable, on offer acceptance to weed out non-serious buyers. Seller can't pull out for 28 days, e.g. gazumping. If it works for both of you, it's fine. They sound like a good idea, but in the real world, there are buyers and sellers and chains involved that mean that in practicality, it's harder to do than you think. And far fewer people go on the committed transaction route than you expect. So my opinion is, if it works for both of you, great. Then you've both got certainty, do it. Yeah. Dan says, my thought of the week is quite important when you say living in our house. Yeah. So my thought of the week is in the newsletter only. I hope those of you got it this morning enjoyed it. Wasn't necessarily that uplifting, was it? But on that happy note, guys, I am going to wrap it up. So if you missed this week's 5 Fact Friday email with my thought of the week, don't miss next week's. Join the mailing list, which is, I can never find the link, can I? You'd think I'd have it in the right place, but no, here it is. mhwc.co.uk/newsletter. Otherwise, and that's where 5 Fact Friday comes out as well. Otherwise, below, there's a link to my link tree with all the places. So if you're a new follower, there are links to my 10 golden rules for first-time buyers, 10 golden rules for sellers. If you're new here, that's a good place to start. And if you can't find the link, just search on YouTube, Charlie's 10 golden rules for home buyers, and the same for home sellers. Have a fantastic weekend. I will see you next week. Bye-bye, guys.